This is an introductory video to the topic of digital electronics. This video is primarily meant for students of an undergraduate program in electronics who typically undergo a 101 course in digital electronics either in the first year or second year of their program. The main intention of this video is to explain what exactly is meant by the digital way of designing and building electronic systems and what are the advantages of the digital way of doing things. All of us are familiar with the word digital. In fact, this particular term has become all pervasive as far as electronic systems are concerned. The camera with which you take pictures is a digital camera. Your smartphone is a digital phone. The dashboard that you see in many automobiles, especially the high-end ones, is a digital dashboard. So the digital dashboard has replaced all those funny dials which you used to have in earlier generations of automobiles. Then of course you have the computers, ranging from the humble desktop or laptop to the most powerful supercomputer. In this picture you can see a supercomputer called the ECA, which is a supercomputer that is built by TCS. And finally, you might have heard about the Digital India Initiative. The Digital India Initiative is a very ambitious program conceived by the government of India to use digital technology for delivering government services and improve the quality of governance in a better way. So digital has become synonymous with electronics. So what is so great about this particular technology or this particular philosophy of building electronic systems? We will explore this briefly in the subsequent slides. So for understanding the digital way of designing electronic systems, we first need to know the distinction between digital and analog. Digital and analog form two extremes of the spectrum. Analog is the adjective that is used for specifying any parameter that is continuous over a range of values with respect to time. In fact, the real world is analog. You come across so many analog quantities in the physical world. For instance, temperature is analog. The atmospheric temperature of a place may vary within a range of values. For instance, if you are living in a tropical or subtropical location, the temperature in your place is likely to vary from maybe say 20 degrees Celsius to perhaps 40 degrees Celsius. So the temperature is an analog quantity which can vary within this range, and it can take values which are continuous in this range. Similarly, you have pressure and speed. you may be referring to the speed of an automobile. So if it is a car, it can have any value from say 0 kilometer per hour to perhaps say 250 kilometers per hour. So the speed of an automobile can assume any value in a continuous range from 0 to 250 kilometers per hour. Now, as far as electronics is concerned, the electronic systems basically perform measurement and processing and control. So they typically measure a physical quantity which is analog, like temperature or pressure or speed, using a sensor. And the sensor converts this quantity into an electrical signal. Now this electrical signal that is produced by a sensor is typically feeble. So it is further subjected to conditioning to convert it into a shape where it can be further processed. And the output after processing will be used for doing some useful work. For instance, if you are using an electronic system for controlling the temperature in a plant, you will be using the sensor for measuring the temperature. The output of the sensor will be subjected to signal conditioning. And finally, based on the outcome, you will be performing some useful work. For instance, it may be cutting off the supply to a furnace if the temperature exceeds a particular value. So for doing this usual work, we will be using what is called an actuator. So an actuator is a electromechanical component which is used for converting electrical energy into some useful mechanical work. So an actuator may be a relay or a motor or a pneumatic drive. So using actuators, basically we convert the output of an electronic system into some work that can be used for controlling some machines. So this is how any electronic system works. Now you can use the same signal chain for depicting the functioning of a mobile phone. In the case of the mobile phone, the sensor is an antenna. So the antenna senses signals and it captures these signals. The signals captured by the antenna are subjected to various stages of signal conditioning and processing. And finally, the output is presented to you in the form of speech or data or graphics or whatever. So you can see that the front end of any electronic system consists of analog parameters. This is something which we cannot get away with because all physical quantities that we deal with, they are analog. Now why are we so concerned about the analog nature of all these physical quantities? The main reason is processing signals in the analog form throughout a system is quite cumbersome. We'll see why. The most important reason why we don't prefer processing analog signals is that they are vulnerable to imperfections in the channel. That is, if you try transmitting an analog signal through a wired or wireless medium, they are vulnerable to distortions that are introduced in the medium. This distortion may be in the form of shape or the frequency of the signal or the phase of the signal. And analog signals will be heavily attenuated by the medium. That means the signal that is received will be considerably reduced in strength when compared to the signal that is transmitted. Moreover, analog signals are vulnerable to corruption by external noise that is added due to interference from electromagnetic sources. Also, the noise that is introduced in an analog signal need not be from external sources. It can be from the internal circuitry of the system. The components, the electronic components that are used in a system themselves are sources of noise. This internal noise may be due to the variation in the component values of resistances and capacitances, or it may be introduced due to other imperfections in the electronic devices that are used in the circuits. So this particular diagram sums up what I have just discussed as far as the distortions in analog signals are concerned. So here I have shown a generic electronic system where we try transmitting an analog signal from one circuit to another circuit. So the medium through which this signal is transmitted may be a wired or wireless medium. That is, we may be using a cable for transmitting the signal, or we may be transmitting it through a wireless means. In any case, the signal will be distorted. And I have represented the channel using an equivalent RLC circuit. So this RLC circuit will introduce distortions in the system. And I have also added a voltage source which models the noise that is introduced into the system. So when the signal is received in another circuit, it is completely different from what is transmitted, as you can see. So the signal is diminished in terms of strength. You can see a lot of high frequency components that are superimposed on the signal, and also the spread of the signal is increased. So what happens is, if you try processing the signal and extracting some useful work out of the signal, then the outcome may not be what you intended. So this is the difficulty in trying to build electronic systems which operate solely on analog signals. Now what is the way out? This is where the digital way of doing things comes in handy. So I think most of you have some idea of what is meant by digital. Probably you would have studied Boolean algebra in your school days, and you would also have got some exposure to the binary number system, where you represent quantities using binary digits. That is, you are allowed to use only 2 digits, 1 or 0. So in digital systems, we have only 2 states, that is the presence or absence of a voltage. Now you try contrasting this with the analog way of doing things. So we saw that in analog, any voltage can have a range of continuous values, whereas in digital, you try representing values using a binary system. That means you have only 2 ways of representing things, that is the presence or absence of a voltage. So maybe you will be using 5 volts for representing a 1 and 0 volts for representing a 0. Still, I think most of you would not have understood the advantage of this kind of a representation. It is not obvious. One of the major advantage of processing signals in the digital fashion is noise immunity. So if I say that all the problems associated with noise, which we discussed in the previous slide, can be mitigated if we use digital mode of representation, then again it is very difficult to understand this at first glance. So we will examine this problem more in depth. So for facilitating the understanding of the noise immunity associated with digital signals, I have shown a simple stream of digital bits, ones and zeros. So the upper part of the diagram has a ideal stream of digital bits. So you have a kind of square wave which is not distorted. So this is what you transmit from a circuit, let us say. Now when it is transmitted through the channel, it may be a wired or wireless channel as we saw earlier. So when it is transmitted through a channel and when it is received in another circuit, what you see will be something that is depicted on the lower side. So you can see that digital signals are as much vulnerable to distortions in frequency, distortions in phase, distortions in shape, and so forth. So they are as much vulnerable to noise as analog signals. So where is the advantage? Where is the noise immunity that we are talking about? Basically, this noise immunity stems from the fact that we can design circuits to interpret a range of voltages as logic 1 and a range of voltages as logic 0. So if the distortions or if the noise components in your signal are within this range, then despite the presence of noise, the logic level of the signal will be correctly determined as logic 1 or logic 0. So within a particular range, any noise in the signal is ignored. So this is what gives the digital way of processing signals an inherent immunity to noise. So there is a built-in tolerance to noise as far as digital signals are concerned. So this is a vast departure from the analog way of processing things. Of course, you still have the problem that if the signal distortion is so much that it slips into the forbidden band between the logic 1 range and the logic 0 range, then there will be uncertainty. But the likelihood of the signal slipping into the forbidden part of the range of voltages is very, very less. As a result, digital systems are much more robust than analog systems as far as immunity to noise is concerned. Of course, the advantages of the digital way of doing things doesn't stop here. Another very powerful tool that is associated with digital electronics is the power of abstraction. Abstraction literally means hiding. We use abstraction in our day-to-day life without really knowing it. For instance, most of us know how to drive a car or how to ride a two-wheeler. When we ride a car or when we drive a car or when we ride a two-wheeler, we are employing the idea of abstraction even without knowing it. See, if you want to drive a car, you don't need to know the intricacies of how the engine is built or how the transmission works or how the fuel is injected. All you need to know is how to operate the ignition, how to use the steering, how to use the gears. Of course, if it's an automatic car, even you don't need to know that. How to use the accelerator, how to use the brakes. So you are completely shielded from the intricacies of how the car is designed and how the car is built. So this is abstraction. So even without knowing the intricacies of the design and construction of the car, just by knowing a few things, you are able to use the car. Of course, it would be better if you know the way the car functions, but it is not essential. So this is exactly what we mean by abstraction. Now, how does abstraction become useful in digital electronics? We'll see that now. I think all of you have heard about digital gates. So we use digital gates for processing digital signals. So you know all the standard gates. We have the AND gate, the OR gate, NOT, NAND, NOR, and so forth. Now with these few components, with these few building blocks, you can build very powerful systems. Even if you take the most powerful digital systems, at the lowest level, these systems are composed of these standard gates as building blocks. So the use of these standard gates makes digital design very modular. It is very easy for you to build very complex systems from the bottom up. Now still, I think the idea of abstraction may not be clear. When we use gates for building digital systems, we are not really concerned about how the gates are built inside. For instance, I have depicted a NAND gate here. So inside the logic diagram of the gate, I have shown the circuitry. So what I have shown is a CMOS implementation of a NAND gate. So you really don't need to know how this gate is implemented in CMOS or using any other technology. You just need to know how the gate functions. So you just need to know the truth table of the gate. And of course, from the electrical point of view, you may be required to know how much current that the input can take and how much current the output can drive. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know much about how the gate circuitry is realized inside. So this is where abstraction comes into the picture as far as digital design is concerned. So what is the advantage of abstracting the implementation details of the digital gates? The main advantage is, as a designer, you can focus on the high-level application that you are building. You may be building a computer, you may be building an adder, you may be building a multiplier, or you may be building some other circuitry. So you can really focus on the application that is to be implemented rather than the low-level circuit details of how to implement these gates. So this is where the modularity of the system comes into the picture. And the consequence of this is that you can design systems faster because the building blocks are already there. So the task of designing digital circuits basically boils down to just picking out these components, the right components, connecting them together, and there you are. You have a digital circuit. So this kind of modular nature of digital design, where you can use standard components for building very complex systems, makes digital design amenable to automation. So you can write computer programs which can pick and choose these gates for realizing a particular functionality. As a result, digital design is by and large completely automated by means of software tools called EDA tools. So using EDA tools, designers can build very complex systems consisting of hundreds of thousands of millions of transistors in a very short span of time. So that is another advantage of the digital way of doing things, which essentially stems from the abstraction and modularity that is inherent in the digital philosophy. We are still not done with the advantages. There are a few more. Another major advantage of digital systems is that they are programmable. Of course, I don't need to tell you what programmability is. By programmability, we mean we can program a digital system, the same digital system, to perform different functions. So for instance, you can program a microprocessor for performing different functions. You may be programming it for performing some arithmetic, or you may be programming it for sending data to a printer for printing out a file. So the same processor can be used for these two different functions. So the advantage of this programmability is that you can use off-the-shelf components for versatile applications. As a result, these components can be mass produced because you don't need to know the end application of these components to plan how much you should make them, because the end applications are versatile. They can be programmed to perform any task. As a result, it becomes feasible for companies to manufacture these components on a very large scale. So you benefit from what is called economies of scale. So in manufacture, you might have heard about the term non-recurring engineering costs. So regardless of whether you are making one piece or 1 million pieces, the initial engineering cost for manufacturing a particular component is the same. So if you are making a large quantity, if you are making and selling a large quantity of the same component, you can recover the engineering costs much better. So you can sell these components at much cheaper prices. So that is the result, that is the reason why components like microprocessors are very cheap nowadays. They are so cheap that you might be surprised to learn that a typical electronic system like an automobile control system has anywhere between 50 to 100 microprocessors. So the components are so cheap, and this basically stems from economies of scale. Another consequence of the standardization of digital components is that they are amenable to miniaturization. So you can pack hundreds of thousands of millions of gates within a small area. So you can build extremely complex systems like your smartphone in a very small form factor or a very small area. So your smartphone itself has several processors, several microprocessors. So the fact that you can accommodate such complex systems in such a small area which can fit into your palm, that itself shows that the digital way of doing things is naturally amenable to miniaturization. So here I have shown the Intel Coffee Lake processor, which consists of 217 million transistors. So that is the scale to which you can build very complex systems. So with this we come to the end of this presentation. So we have seen the main advantage of why digital abstraction is used for building electronic systems, and why digital electronics has become the de facto standard for building complex electronic systems. So with this understanding, I hope that you will be able to appreciate the various design methodologies and concepts that you will be studying as part of this course in digital electronics. Thank you and good luck.